All right, Friday morning, the 49ers and the Rams face each other on Sunday at Levi Stadium in what is really a big game for both teams because the Rams are 6-2. If they win this game, they take kind of a commanding lead on the 49ers as far as the NFC West goes, a two-game lead in the loss column. And then if the 49ers win this game, they take a significant advantage over the Rams because of the season sweep and probably would, I mean, almost all but wrap up. I shouldn't say that, but I was going to say, uh, come close to wrapping up the best record in the division over all the teams, which would then put them in very good position for any tiebreaker. So any team in the division would have to have a one game lead on them. But if it's, everybody has the same record, 49ers would be in really good position with a 4-0 record within the division. And then also it would give them a really good record in the NFC as well. 49ers have 3 losses on the season. 2 of those losses have been outside of the conference, 2 losses to AFC teams. So 49ers are in good shape there. I don't think a big surprise. Mac Jones will be the starting quarterback again this week. I think, the 49ers have certainly sent those signals. Mac Jones spoke to the media on Thursday, and Kyle Shanahan will speak to the media on Friday, and the 49ers have to divulge their status report, their injury report for this game against the Rams. And so kind of what I'm hearing is that, a week ago, the door was pretty much wide open not for Brock Purdy to start in that game against the New York Giants, but for Brock Purdy to suit up as the number 2 and be the backup quarterback to Mac Jones. The thinking was that Brock Purdy was close enough to be able to step on the field, but Mac Jones had gotten all the practice reps and they were preparing him to start that game against the Giants. But in a pinch, Brock Purdy could be the number 2. It sounds to me like the 49ers have kind of scrapped that idea that, if Brock Purdy is good enough to suit up for a game, we'll put it this way. If he goes through a week of practice as the quarterback and is healthy, then he's a starter. And stop me if you've heard this before, but I think there's a pretty good chance that Brock Purdy would be available to face the Cardinals. I know a lot of people are feeling kind of skepticism about Brock Purdy even being able to play again this season with that turf toe injury. Watching him out there on the practice field during the warm-ups, drills, and everything, it looks like he is making solid progress. There's been no reports of any kind of setback, but he still feels it. I don't think there's any question that, the turf toe will not just miraculously go away here today or tomorrow. It didn't go away last week or this week. So it'll always kind of be there. It's a matter of managing it and still being able to play his best football with, some level of discomfort in that right big toe. But kind of what I'm hearing is that now, again, I said, stop if you've heard me say this before. Last week, I was kind of under the impression or kind of felt like the 49ers could have him active for the game as the number 2 with the idea of giving him all the first team reps in practice this week. And if he makes it through the practice of week, he would play against the Rams. Well, I don't know exactly why the 49ers opted to go with Mac Jones this week in practice. As we talked about yesterday, Brock Purdy clearly taking the scout team reps, other than, just having him go through a week of practice as the scout team quarterback. He and Adrian Martinez kind of shared that role this week, but I think he's just kind of giving him a little bit more as time goes on. So now, I'm not going to be definitive. I'm not going to say that Brock Purdy will certainly be the quarterback next week when the 49ers play at the Arizona Cardinals, but I would think that there is a decent chance that will occur. And it's all about giving him those practice reps on Wednesday to begin with, and then Thursday, and then Friday, they would travel to Arizona on Saturday next week. And if he makes it through, then I think the 49ers would feel confident as long as Brock Purdy feels confident in that toe and being able to run and move and do the things that he needs to do to be successful against the Cardinals. But that is a week out. Right now, we're focusing in on this game, 49ers and the LA Rams. And, Mac Jones, one of the advantages of going with Mac Jones is that, well, he's healthier, I guess, at this point than Brock Purdy. But also, just 5 weeks ago, he played against the Rams, and not only played against the Rams, but he saw a lot of different looks. Probably the best preparation for Mac Jones in this game Sunday was just that experience of going through that game Thursday night against the LA Rams, because he dropped back 49 times or attempted 49 passes in that game. 49ers pulled off that overtime victory, and Mac Jones was really freaking good in that game. 33 of 49 for 342 yards with 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And that really was a significant game for the 49ers. It didn't necessarily put the stamp on the season as far as this is what the team is going to be, but it did put a stamp on the team in that the previous game, that loss, that kind of lackluster loss against the Jacksonville Jaguars, that's not the kind of team the 49ers have to be every game. Now, they've had this roller coaster since then where, Nick Bosa got hurt, season-ending ACL injury against the Cardinals in week 3. So the 49ers start the season 3-0. Then it was the loss to Jacksonville, the win against the Rams, the loss to Tampa Bay, the win against the Falcons, the loss to Houston, and the win against the New York Giants. So when you start 3-0, all you have to do is basically play 500 ball the rest of the way. You have a 10-7 record, and you have a really good chance of making it into the postseason. And where the 49ers are right now with, if they just keep that up, of course, their sights are set higher than that. But if they keep that up based on their NFC record, decent chance that they would win any tiebreaker to get into the postseason. But this game is just, it signifies quite a shift in the NFC West playoff picture. And this is about as difficult as it gets for the 49ers, facing the Rams a second time. Rams are playing really good football. They haven't lost since that overtime defeat to the 49ers at SoFi Stadium. And so, when I look at this game, and by the way, check out 49ers Talk podcast on Saturday. Have some good interviews on there, including with Kyle Shanahan for 49ers game plan. Also, George Kittle. Get into kind of the mindset of George Kittle. Not necessarily talking a whole lot about football, but maybe just kind of how he prepares himself to play football. A little bit about the trading deadline. He told me on that he didn't expect the 49ers to make any deal. He didn't make any grand projections or predictions like he did in October of 22 when the 49ers acquired Christian McCaffrey. He didn't foresee anything like that coming. And then also Ask Papa. Greg Papa breaks down this game with a lot of insight that only he has. Just a very knowledgeable football guy, and gives you the breakdown on the Rams. So every week at NBCSportsBayArea.com, I do my 5 to watch. And this week I went with Alfred Collins. Boy, when you think about the best defensive play for the 49ers in the first half of the season, it was Alfred Collins, that punch out of Kyron Williams at the goal line and then recovering it with a minute left. That preserved the 49ers lead. Of course, they ended up giving up a field goal, going to overtime, and then having the 4th down stop in overtime to win that game. Also, Colton McKivitz. Again, I always say this, take this for what it's worth, grain of salt, whatever. Pro Football Focus has both Trent Williams and Colton McKivitz as top 10 rated offensive tackles in the NFL. That's left tackle and right tackle. McKivitz has given up 3 sacks on the season, and he grades out as the number 10 overall offensive tackle. And he's doing a really good job in the running game this season. Better in the run game than he had in past seasons. But McKivitz going up against Byron Young. Byron Young leads the Rams, this dynamic Rams defensive front, with 9 sacks on the season. And my point is, if McKivitz can get the running game going, or the 49ers can get the running game going, and McKivitz is firing off and hitting Byron Young, then maybe that slows down the Rams pass rush just enough for Mac Jones to go through his read, get the ball out quickly. And I think from the 49ers standpoint, they certainly don't want to throw the ball 49 times in this game like they did, which was their winning formula on October 2nd. But a lot of those pass plays were in that game, a 2-minute drill, playing a longer game going to overtime. So the 49ers did run the ball a lot in that game too. 33 carries in the game, but they only averaged 2.2 yards. So they would love to be able to do a 50-50 mix, but run the ball more consistently, pop a big one. And now with Kittle back in the lineup, with the wide receivers blocking a little bit better, it gives them more opportunities to break a long one and kind of increase that yards per carry average. Bryce Huff appears to be back, although the 49ers do have some injury issues. Alfred Collins, I did mention Alfred Collins. He has an issue. Keon White was limited in practice. 49ers have some issues at the linebacker position with Tatum Bethune and D. Winters. So as they head into this practice on Friday, we'll have a better idea of who's going to be available for this game when the 49ers announce their official injury report. But Bryce Huff should be returning to the lineup, and this is a guy that has 4 sacks on the season. 49ers as a whole only have 11 sacks. They need to put pressure on Matthew Stafford, or he will slice and dice the 49ers like he did on that game in Week 5. Matthew Stafford, a huge game against the 49ers, with throwing for, 389 yards and 3 touchdowns. This is a guy, Stafford, in 230 NFL regular season games, has thrown 190 interceptions. So he puts the ball out there, and the defense has some opportunities to make plays and generate some takeaways. However, this season, 21 touchdown passes for Stafford in 8 games and 2 interceptions. So he is really taking care of the football. Diamador Lenore at cornerback, he's not going to shadow Puka Nacua or Devontae Adams, but, I think the help will come on the other side. Lenore has to take care of his business. He hasn't been challenged a whole lot. So if he can kind of wipe one side of the field clean, then the 49ers, you can kind of narrow the field a little bit, and the 49ers might have a better chance of handling Nacua, who's a bit banged up as well, and Devontae Adams. And then my number one guy to watch in this game is George Kittle. He's already made an impact in the running game with his blocking, but he hasn't really stepped up in the passing game. He does have 2 touchdown catches in his 4 games this season, but in those 4 games, only 12 receptions for 100 yards. That's where the 49ers offense can really start to take hold. It's, running the ball with Christian McCaffrey and maybe a little bit of sprinkling in of Brian Robinson. But, those third downs, it's Jawan Jennings over the middle, making the tough contested catches. It's finding a way to get the ball to George Kittle in space and seeing if he can get those big yards after the catch. So that's the quick 49ers update on this Friday morning as they have a practice later in the day and getting you set for a kickoff against the Rams. And as I said, the official injury report coming out later in the day. But I think there's a decent chance that Brock Purdy is just completely ruled out, but don't read into that there was a setback. From what I understand, there wasn't a setback. He's still progressing. But last week he was listed as questionable. Clearly Mac Jones will be the starter, and then it's a matter of, what exactly Brock Purdy's role will be. But it's my understanding that the idea or the thought that the team is taking is just like, don't take any chances. If he's not the starter, then just don't even have him suit up and get him ready to see if he can play against the Arizona Cardinals in Week 11. So thanks so much for watching this video, and that is it for now.